Security cameras at Thompson & Reed Consulting captured something extraordinary on the morning of February 7, 2022. The footage shows a woman in business casual attire entering the break room at 6:43 a.m. She glances toward the hallway, then removes a small plastic container from her purse. For the next 47 seconds, she stands at the coffee station, her back partially blocking the camera's view. When she turns to leave, the container is gone. Marcus Chen had built his career on reliability. At 43, he served as operations manager for Thompson & Reed, a mid-sized tech consulting firm in downtown Portland, Oregon. His colleagues knew him as methodical and fair, the kind of supervisor who remembered birthdays and never raised his voice. He arrived at the office each morning at 7:15, always stopping first at the break room for coffee. This routine, maintained for 6 years, would become the detail that nearly killed him. Rachel Winters joined Thompson & Reed 3 years before the incident. The 31-year-old project coordinator impressed everyone during her first months, handling complex client schedules and coordinating between departments with apparent ease. She reported directly to Marcus, who wrote glowing performance reviews. Their working relationship appeared professional and cordial. Colleagues described them as a solid team, with Marcus often praising Rachel's attention to detail during staff meetings. Rachel had moved to Portland from Minneapolis specifically for this position. Single and living alone, she poured herself into work, often staying late to perfect spreadsheets and client presentations. Coworkers noticed her meticulous nature extended beyond professional duties. Her desk remained immaculately organized. She color-coded files and maintained detailed personal calendars. Some colleagues found her intensity admirable, while others thought it bordered on obsessive. Marcus, meanwhile, had spent his entire career at Thompson & Reed. He started as a junior consultant fresh from Portland State University and worked his way through the ranks. His 2 teenage daughters attended Lincoln High School. His wife, Elena, taught elementary school in Beaverton. Marcus coached youth soccer on weekends and volunteered at the local food bank. People described him as steady and dependable, someone who treated everyone with equal respect regardless of their position. The termination happened on February 4th, a Friday afternoon. Marcus called Rachel into his office at 4 p.m. According to witness statements, the meeting lasted 12 minutes. When Rachel emerged, she went straight to her desk, gathered her personal items, and left without speaking to anyone. Human Resources later confirmed that Rachel had been fired for cause after an internal audit discovered discrepancies in expense reports totaling $8,000. Rachel had submitted falsified receipts for client dinners and travel costs that never occurred. Marcus arrived at work Monday morning at his usual time. The building's keycard system logged him entering at 7:13 a.m. He rode the elevator to the 4th floor, walking past empty cubicles toward the break room. At 7:16, he poured himself a cup of coffee from the pot someone had already brewed. Security footage shows him adding cream and sugar, then carrying the mug to his office. At 8:32, Marcus collapsed. His assistant, Jennifer Park, heard a crash and found him on the floor beside his desk, convulsing. She called 911 immediately. Paramedics arrived within 6 minutes and transported Marcus to Oregon Health and Science University Hospital. His symptoms included severe vomiting, rapid heartbeat, dilated pupils, and confusion. Emergency room physicians initially suspected a heart attack or stroke. Dr. Sarah Lynn, the attending physician, noticed something unusual during the examination. Marcus's symptoms didn't align with cardiac events. His elevated heart rate combined with gastrointestinal distress and neurological signs suggested poisoning. She ordered comprehensive toxicology screening and contacted Portland police. Detective James Morrison arrived at the hospital at 10 a.m. Marcus remained conscious enough to mention that his coffee had tasted slightly bitter. The toxicology results took 3 days to process. Laboratory analysis identified high levels of thallium sulfate in Marcus's blood and urine. Thallium, a heavy metal once used in rat poison, causes symptoms that can mimic natural illness. Dr. Lynn explained that without rapid treatment, thallium poisoning often proves fatal. Marcus received Prussian blue therapy, which helps eliminate thallium from the body. He survived, but faced weeks of recovery and potential long-term neurological damage. The lab results shocked Detective Morrison. Thallium poisoning cases occurred rarely in modern criminal investigations. The substance had been banned for consumer use in the United States since 1972 due to numerous poisoning deaths. Obtaining thallium required either access to industrial chemical suppliers or knowledge of overseas vendors who operated in legal gray areas. This fact alone suggested significant premeditation. Morrison contacted the FBI's Chemical and Biological Countermeasures Unit for consultation. Special Agent Linda Torres explained that thallium sulfate dissolves easily in hot liquids, remains tasteless at low concentrations, and metabolizes slowly, making detection difficult if not tested specifically. The amount found in Marcus's system indicated a dose calculated to cause severe illness without immediate death. Torres noted this precision suggested research and planning rather than impulsive action. Detective Morrison began his investigation by interviewing Thompson and Reed employees. Everyone mentioned the recent termination. Several people recalled Rachel's reaction when she learned about the firing, with one coworker describing her as completely devastated but eerily calm. Another employee reported seeing Rachel in the building's parking lot late Friday evening, though her keycard showed no entry that day. This detail raised questions. The building's security system maintained footage for 30 days. Morrison requested all recordings from the week surrounding the poisoning. The IT manager, David Huang, compiled hours of material from 12 cameras positioned throughout the office. Morrison spent 2 full days reviewing the footage, creating a timeline of everyone's movements. The break room camera revealed the critical evidence. At 6:43 a.m. on Monday, February 7th, a woman entered the break room. She wore a dark coat and kept her face partially turned from the camera. Morrison recognized the body language and movement patterns. He compared the footage to earlier recordings of Rachel at work. The height, build, and gait matched. Morrison obtained a search warrant for Rachel's apartment on Wednesday, February 9th. She lived in a studio in the Hawthorne district, a quiet neighborhood southeast of downtown. Officers found her home that morning. Rachel answered the door calmly, showing no surprise at their presence. The apartment appeared orderly, almost sterile. The search team consisted of 4 detectives and 2 forensic technicians. They methodically photographed each room before touching anything. The apartment's stark cleanliness immediately struck investigators. No dirty dishes sat in the sink. No mail cluttered the counter. The bathroom gleamed. Even the trash can appeared freshly emptied. This level of cleanliness often indicated either obsessive tendencies or recent evidence removal. Investigators discovered crucial evidence in Rachel's bathroom cabinet. A small unlabeled container held traces of white powder. Field testing suggested thallium compounds. The container, barely larger than a pill bottle, sat behind everyday items like aspirin and vitamins. Someone had deliberately placed it to avoid casual observation. Forensic technicians also found cleaning supplies beneath the kitchen sink, including industrial-strength bleach and rubber gloves. Receipt records showed Rachel had purchased these items on February 5th, the day after her termination. Rachel's laptop, seized during the search, contained browser history from the previous week. She had researched thallium poisoning symptoms, treatment options, and detection timelines. One search query read, "How long does thallium stay in coffee?" Additional searches included thallium lethal dose, symptoms of heavy metal poisoning, and can toxicology screens detect thallium. The search history painted a clear picture of someone methodically researching how to poison another person while avoiding detection. Computer forensics uncovered additional troubling evidence. Rachel had visited multiple dark web forums discussing untraceable poisons. She had created anonymous email accounts to communicate with overseas chemical suppliers. Transaction records showed she had purchased thallium sulfate for $300 from a company registered in Belarus. The chemical arrived via international mail in late January, nearly 2 weeks before her termination. The timing demolished any defense argument about impulsive action driven by job loss. Rachel's phone records showed she had called Thompson and Reed's main line at 6:38 a.m. Monday morning, asking about building access for former employees. The receptionist, who arrived early that day, told her that terminated employees had their keycards immediately deactivated. Rachel thanked her and ended the call. 5 minutes later, security footage showed her entering through the building's delivery entrance, which employees often propped open during morning shipments. Detective Morrison brought Rachel in for questioning on Thursday afternoon. She agreed to speak without an attorney present, a decision that surprised Morrison given the seriousness of the allegations. They sat in interview room 2 at Portland Police Central Precinct, a windowless space with gray walls and fluorescent lighting. Morrison activated the recording equipment and read Rachel her Miranda rights. She acknowledged understanding them. For the first hour, she maintained she hadn't been near Thompson and Reed since her termination. Her voice remained steady, her posture relaxed. She claimed she had spent Monday morning at home, sleeping late after a difficult weekend processing her job loss. Morrison took notes, letting her construct her narrative without interruption. He had learned through years of experience that suspects often revealed more through their unprompted statements than through direct questioning. Morrison showed her the security footage. Rachel watched silently, her expression unchanging. The video played on the laptop screen positioned between them. 47 seconds of footage showing a figure in dark clothing tampering with the coffee station. Morrison pointed out the distinctive silver bracelet visible on the figure's wrist, identical to one Rachel wore during the interview. He mentioned how building cameras had captured her entering through the delivery entrance at 6:41 a.m. Rachel's breathing pattern shifted almost imperceptibly. Morrison noticed the subtle change, a slight acceleration that betrayed stress despite her controlled exterior. She asked to see the footage again. Morrison replayed it. Rachel studied the screen intently, as if searching for something that might contradict the obvious conclusion. Then Morrison mentioned the thallium container and search history. Rachel's composure cracked. She asked for water, her hands trembling slightly. Morrison left the room briefly, returning with a plastic cup. Rachel drank slowly, buying time. The silence stretched for 15 minutes. Morrison waited patiently. Breaking suspects required patience more than aggression. Rachel finally began talking. Yes, she had put something in the coffee. No, she didn't initially intend to kill Marcus. She claimed she wanted him to get sick, to suffer embarrassment, to feel as humiliated as she felt when he fired her. Her voice took on a defensive quality, as if she expected Morrison to understand her perspective. She described lying awake Friday night, consumed by rage and shame. The termination felt like a personal betrayal rather than a business decision. She explained she had purchased thallium online weeks earlier, after reading about it in a crime novel. The compound arrived in an unmarked package from an overseas chemical supplier. She stored it in her apartment, uncertain what she would do with it. After her termination, anger consumed her thoughts. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. She felt her career had ended unfairly. Morrison listened without judgment, knowing confession often required emotional release before logical analysis. The investigation revealed Rachel's stated motive didn't tell the complete story. Detectives discovered she had recently purchased a $200,000 life insurance policy on herself and had been researching overseas job opportunities. Financial records showed mounting credit card debt approaching $50,000. The expense fraud that led to her firing represented attempts to cover personal spending she couldn't afford. A deeper examination of Rachel's computer revealed she had also accessed Marcus's personal email account using a password she had observed him typing months earlier. She had been monitoring his communications, including messages about the internal audit. Rachel knew she would be fired days before Marcus called her into his office. This knowledge gave her time to plan. The prosecution built their case methodically. Security footage placed Rachel at the scene. Toxicology confirmed thallium poisoning. Fingerprints on the container in her apartment matched hers exclusively. Her confession, though later recanted, aligned with physical evidence. Digital forensics showed premeditation through her online research and email monitoring. Rachel's defense attorney argued temporary insanity triggered by the trauma of job loss. They presented employment records showing Rachel's previously stellar performance. Character witnesses described her as kind and conscientious. The defense claimed the firing represented a complete personality break, causing Rachel to act irrationally. Attorney David Brennan called Rachel's former roommate from Minneapolis, who testified about Rachel's dedication to her career and her devastating reaction to any perceived failure. A forensic psychologist evaluated Rachel and testified about adjustment disorder with depressed mood, arguing that losing her job created a psychological crisis that impaired her judgment. Brennan portrayed Rachel as someone who had never committed any crime, whose entire identity revolved around professional success, and who collapsed mentally when that foundation crumbled. Prosecutors countered with evidence of planning. Rachel researched the poison weeks before her termination. She accessed Marcus's email without authorization. She executed a careful plan to enter the building undetected. These actions demonstrated clear intent and rational thought. Deputy District Attorney Karen Walsh methodically walked the jury through the timeline, showing how each step required deliberate calculation rather than impulsive emotion. Walsh emphasized the thallium purchase date, January 23rd, 15 days before the termination. Rachel couldn't have known she would be fired when she ordered the poison. This fact suggested she had contemplated poisoning Marcus for reasons unrelated to job loss. Walsh theorized that Rachel feared the expense fraud investigation would eventually expose her, and she planned to eliminate the supervisor who would inevitably discover her misconduct. The prosecution called FBI Special Agent Torres as an expert witness. She explained that obtaining thallium required sophisticated knowledge and deliberate effort. Rachel hadn't purchased this substance impulsively. She had researched vendors, created anonymous payment methods, and waited weeks for international delivery. Every action demonstrated premeditation and awareness of legal consequences. After 3 days of preliminary hearings, Both sides recognized the strength of evidence made conviction nearly certain. The prosecution offered a plea bargain: attempted murder in the second degree with a recommended sentence of 12 years. Rachel accepted the plea deal in May 2022. She stood before Judge Patricia Flores and admitted guilt to one count of attempted murder. Judge Flores noted the calculated nature of the crime while acknowledging Rachel's lack of prior criminal history. The court sentenced her to 12 years in state prison with credit for time served. She would be eligible for parole after serving 8 years. Marcus Chen spent 6 weeks in the hospital. Doctors managed to prevent permanent organ damage, though he suffered peripheral neuropathy in his hands and feet. The condition caused tingling sensations and occasional numbness that doctors warned might never fully resolve. Simple tasks like buttoning shirts or typing on keyboards became frustratingly difficult. He attended physical therapy 3 times weekly, working to rebuild strength and coordination. He took medical leave for 4 months. During this period, Elena reduced her teaching hours to care for him. Their daughters struggled to understand why someone would hurt their father. The family attended counseling sessions together, processing trauma and fear. Marcus experienced nightmares, often waking convinced someone had poisoned his water or food. His appetite diminished. He lost 20 pounds. Thompson and Reed offered him continued employment with adjusted responsibilities, but Marcus declined. The thought of returning to that building, walking past that break room, sitting in that office where he collapsed, triggered panic attacks. His therapist diagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder. Marcus realized healing required physical distance from the location of his trauma. He accepted a position with a different firm in Seattle, wanting distance from the experience. The move meant uprooting his family, changing schools for his daughters, and Elena finding a new teaching position. The transition proved difficult but necessary. Marcus needed a fresh start somewhere without constant reminders of how close he had come to dying. Jennifer Park, who found Marcus collapsed, left Thompson and Reed 2 months after the incident. She told colleagues she couldn't walk past his office without reliving that morning. The image of Marcus convulsing on the floor haunted her dreams. She found work at a smaller firm in Bend, Oregon, wanting distance from downtown Portland. She still occasionally experiences flashbacks when she smells coffee brewing. The company hired a security consultant to review their access protocols. They installed additional cameras and implemented new procedures for handling terminated employees' building access. All fired employees now must surrender keycards immediately, escorted from the building by security personnel. Management received training on recognizing warning signs of potential workplace violence. The break room underwent renovation, partially as security improvement and partially because employees felt uncomfortable using the space where the poisoning occurred. Rachel's family released a brief statement through their attorney expressing remorse and asking for privacy. Her mother visited her regularly during the first year of incarceration. Rachel enrolled in educational programs offered through the prison system, studying business administration remotely. Marcus rarely speaks about what happened. Friends say he struggles with trust issues and anxiety. He changed his morning routine entirely, no longer drinking coffee at work. He prefers working from home when possible. The physical symptoms from thallium exposure gradually improved, though the psychological impact remained. The case highlighted vulnerabilities in workplace security systems. Many Portland businesses reviewed their protocols for monitoring terminated employees and controlling building access. Security experts noted that prop-open delivery doors represent significant risks. Several companies installed motion sensors and automatic door closures following the incident. Thompson and Reed conducted an internal review of their termination procedures. They now require security escorts for employees being let go, and immediate collection of all access credentials. The break room received additional cameras with clearer angles. The firm also implemented new background check procedures for hiring. Rachel Winters currently serves her sentence at Coffee Creek Correctional Facility in Wilsonville, Oregon. Her earliest parole eligibility date is May 2030. Marcus Chen continues working in tech consulting, having rebuilt his career in a new city. The coffee pot that held the poisoned brew was destroyed as evidence. The security footage remains sealed in court records.